Continuing with the best-selling diet book week here. Now, did you ever think that your blood type had anything to do with your diet? Well, this doctor says it does. He's the best-selling author of the book Eat Right for Your Blood Type. Here's Dr. Peter
Adamo.
D'Adamo. All right, doctor. Nice to have you. All right. Now, most of us are either type A or type O. Here's the blood type O table. This is the A table. Let's start right here.
Well, type O is basically an old blood type. So the best way to describe the type O diet is essentially kind of a caveman diet. This is what people ate when they were hunter-gatherers back 100,000 years ago, and this is what they best adapted to.
Steak, meat?
100 million years ago.
Well, it turns out that the blood types actually were in flux and actually are quite recent in terms of how we adapted to foods.
Oh.
And originally they protected us from infections. And as we went around the world, our physiologies changed, and that was sort of coded into our genetics.
So do you have some proof that this really relates to one another, these foods with type
Oh, absolutely.
Type O?
There's
Yeah?
thousands of articles in the scientific literature that talk about blood type in terms of its influence on digestion.
So if you're looking to diet and you're type A, or type O rather, these are the foods you should dwell on, right?
Right.
And
the
yet,
specific
you have a high cholesterol situation and a heart condition, and he's been told not to eat red meat.
Huh?
Well, but it turns out that actually the idea behind actually using meat is not inherently that meat would cause the problem. And believe it or not, there's studies that show that, as Dr. Atkins said yesterday, carbohydrates can contribute to the formation of triglycerides in some people.
All right, so you also recommend, what are these, figs?
Yes.
And this?
Prunes.
prunes.
That's for the other
Those
person
are
you've got.
figs.
Those are figs.
Spinach, nuts.
Basically,
Not nuts.
it would,
No, those are beans. Those are,
what would be called a hunter-gatherer
Why is everything
diet.
I say wrong?
well, that's not a nut. Those
Oh,
are nuts. Eat that. That's a bean.
I don't want a bean, I want a nut. Type A right here.
This is
Pineapple.
mine.
This is you.
Yeah,
What is
and
that?
I went
Tofu?
right for the nuts, too.
Tofu. Turns out that people who are type
Peanut
A have
butter?
to basically prevent certain types of common diseases. They have higher rates of cancer than the other blood types. And so the type A diet reflects the fact that these people cannot break down protein as effectively.
Ah.
So for instance, they gain some of the abilities to break down other foods, but they lose the ability to break down animal products. So if you're type A, for instance, like I am, and I know that you are as well, the use of plant proteins like tofu can have a very powerful effect in lowering your risk for certain chronic diseases, including certain common cancers.
But not dairy product.
Dairy products are not a big part of the A diet. The A diet is essentially kind of a vegetable-based diet, vegetarian. The O diet, kind of a hunter-gatherer diet, caveman diet.
All right, fine. We've got more blood types to discuss, and we'll
more
be back
nuts.
with those. Dr. Peter D'Adamo, this book, Eat Right for Your Blood Type. So we're discussing various blood types. Incidentally, his father was the pioneer in this particular diet, right?
He drew the original conclusions. I just looked in the literature and actually saw that they were backed up by science.
All right, so now this is blood type B. This is what you recommend for blood type B.
B is a very small percentage of the population, a sort of a, I guess, an evolutionary kind of late model blood type. It actually is an omnivore. It can do well with a little bit of dairy. It does well with some animal products. I guess you could describe it as the best of both kingdoms, the best of the vegetable kingdom, the best of the animal kingdom
So
as well.
any portions will help, I mean, or...
That's the funny thing about the blood type diet. It looks at the food and how the food fits the person's
amount of it.
physiology.
So the food will not only keep you slim, but also keep you healthy as well.
and,
Fighting
and
chronic
minimize the risk of diseases that you may be prone to.
Type AB.
Oh, enigmatic, 2% of the population. The only blood type that wasn't the result of evolution, but rather the result of smashing a population of A's into B's. Back in the early days, people ran around, they all had different blood types. It's a blood type that has the best and the worst of both A and B. So once again, cancer prevention becomes much more important in this blood type. Common mushrooms, for instance, there's recent research that shows that mushrooms possess a chemical that in this blood type is obviously going to minimize their risk of colon cancer.
Wow.
So little simple things like choosing what particular types of food may very well be more important than choosing what particular category.
Yeah.
The protein or fat may be less important than the food itself.
So interesting, and more information in this book, 4 blood types, 4 diets. Eat for your blood type. Doctor, thank you very, very much. Enjoyed having you here. We'll be
For
right
more
back.
information on any diets you see this week, please visit our website.